Lesson 5-2, 4-digit by 2-digit division. For the purpose of these practice problems, there simply isn't enough room on this page to show our work for these 4 problems. And for that reason alone, we're going to skip them and start with problem 5 and work our way through the rest of this sheet. When you look at the type of problems that we're going to encounter in today's lesson, of course, the first thing that strikes me is all of our problems have divisors that are 2 digits. And again, just a quick reminder about the vocabulary when looking at division. The big number that's under the bracket, which is what we're setting out to divide, is called the dividend. And I'll write that up here. And the number outside the bracket is called the divisor. That's how many ways we are splitting or sharing the dividend. The answer, of course, to a division problem that appears above the bracket is the quotient, and then any leftover amount is called the remainder. With all that being said, here are 2-digit divisors. Look, we don't have our 72 times facts memorized. It's just that simple. And so what I do is I look at the divisor and I use rounding to make this a more friendly number. In my mind, I'm going to think 70. Now, if you know your 7 times facts, then you know your 70 times facts. Just add a 0. In other words, think of your 7 times facts. 7, 14, 21, 28. Now, add a 0 and you've got yourself your 70 times facts. 70, 140, 210, 280. That is going to help us get in the ballpark of where we're trying to go. We're still using find, multiply, subtract, bring down. And if it helps you to write that out somewhere, I encourage you to do that. If it helps you to have your times chart out, I encourage you to do that. And let's get started. So 72 is close to 70. I'm going to find how many times 70 goes into 5? No. How many times 70 goes into 59? No. How many times 70 goes into 590? Yes. And whatever I land on, that digit is going to line up right above this 0. Think about my 70 times facts. What is in the ballpark of 590 without going over? Well, 7 times 8 is 56, which means 70 times 8 is 560. That's in the ballpark. So I'm going to test out 8. But when I test out 8 using a side calculation, I have to multiply it by 72. So over here on the side, I'm going to do 72 multiplied by 8. 8 times 2 is 16. The 6 comes down, the 1 gets carried. 8 times 7 is 56, plus the 1 is 57. And that checks out, doesn't it? 576 is close without going over. So I line up my 8 here. I've already done my multiply step. 72 times 8 is 576. Next, I'm going to subtract. The 0 has to borrow from the 9. 10 minus 6 is 4. 8 minus 7 is 1. The 5's cancel. After we subtract, we bring down. And the new number that's formed is 144. Now, how many times does 70 to get in the ballpark go into 144? Well, I'm thinking twice. 70 times 2 is 140. Now, 2 is my guess. I'm going to test it out by doing a side calculation with the real divisor, 72 times 2. I want to see that I'm close without going over. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 7 is 14. Ding, ding, ding. What do you know? We got it right on the dot, didn't we? And in this case, after we multiply and subtract, we see there is no remainder. Our quotient or answer is 82. Next problem. I'm looking at 85. I could round this up to 90. So think 9 times facts and add a 0 behind all your multiples of 9 to get your 90 times facts. How many times does 90 go into 5? Nope. 55? Nope. 552? Yes. So whatever I land on, I'm going to line up above the 2. Now, 90 times 5 is 450. 90 times 6 is 540. That feels close. I'm going to test out 6. So I do a side calculation of 85 times 6. 6 times 5 is 30. The 0 comes down, 3 gets carried. 6 times 8 is 48, plus the 3 is 51. That works. 6 works. I'm going to line the 6 up there. I've already done my multiplication. So next up is subtraction. 2 minus 0 is 2. 5 minus 1 is 4. Let's bring down the 9. Now I go back to find. Using my rounded number first to get in the ballpark. How many times does 90 go into 429? Well, let's see. 9, 18, 27, 36, 45. Let's go back to 36. 90 times 4 is 360. I'm going to test out 4. So 85 multiplied by 4. 4 times 5 is 20. 0 comes down, 2 gets carried. 4 times 8 is 32. Plus the 2 is 34. 340. That is under. It's not as close as I would have thought it might be. So just to play it safe, I'm also going to test out 85 times 5. If I go too high, then I know 85 times 4 was what I wanted. 85 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 comes down, 2 gets carried. 5 times 8 is 40 plus a 2. 40. Ah! What do you know? It's a good thing we tested that out. In this case, 425 works. That gets us nice and close without going over. 5 is the digit we want. We've already done our multiplication. So we'll subtract. There's nothing left to bring down. The 4 becomes our remainder. 65 remainder 4. Number 7. 55, I'm going to round that up to 60. I'm going to ask myself how many times 60 goes into 412. Well, 60, 120, 180, 240, 300, 360, 420. Let's try 360 first. 55 times 6 is the side calculation I need to test out. 55 times 6. 6 times 5 is 30. 0 comes down, carry the 3. 6 times 5 is 30 plus the 3. 330. Quite a bit less. Let's go up to 7. 55 times 7. 7 times 5 is 35. 5 comes down, 3 gets carried. 7 times 5 is 35 plus a 3. And that looks like a good fit. That's close without going over. Line up the 7 here. Line up 385 here. And then let's subtract. 2 minus 5 can't do it. We've got to borrow. 12 minus 5 is 7. Now, we have a 0 here, minus 8. We can't do it, so the 0 borrows from next door. This becomes a 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. Bring down 5. The new number that's formed is 275. And now using our rounded number, how many times does 60 go into 275? Let's get in the ballpark here. Maybe 4 or 5. Let's test out 4. Side calculation, 55 times 4. 4 times 5 is 20. 0 comes down, 2 gets carried. 4 times 5 is 20 plus a 2. 220. I think we can go higher. Let's try 5. 55 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 5 is 25 plus a 2. What do you know? Right on the dot. It is 275. And in this case, there's nothing left over, no remainder. Number 8, let's round 29 up to 30 to get in the ballpark here. How many times does 30 go into 104? About 3 times, I believe, is worth testing out. 29 times 3 is our side calculation. 3 times 9 is 27. Carry the 2. 3 times 2 is 6 plus a 2 is 8. And that'll work. Here we've got to subtract across zeros. It becomes a 10. And this becomes a 9. This becomes a 14. 14 minus 7 is 7. 9 minus 8 is 1. Bring down the 4. We have to find how many times 29 goes into 174. Let's use our rounded number to get in the ballpark. How many times does 30 go into 174? Let's say about 5 or 6. What do you want to test out first, 5 or 6? Let's test out 6. I've got a good feeling about that one. 6 times 9 is 54. 4 comes down, 5 gets carried. 6 times 2 is 12 plus the 5. Yeah, like I told you, I had a good feeling about that one. It is 174 exactly. And those cancel. There is no remainder. And just to be clear, this 9 was not part of our answer. That was part of my subtraction when I was working that out. Okay. Moving on to the word problems. Number 9, a basketball game is 156 minutes long. They have a commercial break every 6 minutes. How many commercial breaks are there in total? Okay. Let's see. We've got 156 divided by 6. 6 goes into 15 twice. 6 times 2 is 12. 15 minus 12 is 3. Bring down the 6. 6 goes into 36. 6 times 6 is 36. Subtract that out. Nothing left over. 26 breaks. Number 10, a high school sold tickets for a charity dinner. Each ticket cost $15, and the total cost of the tickets was $1,440. How many tickets were sold? Okay, so we'll take this total amount divided by the individual ticket costs. Now, I know we don't have our 15 times facts memorized necessarily, but in this case, you could use rounding. You could round this up to 20, or you could just try to stick with the actual number of 15. I'll leave that choice up to you. I'm going to stick with 15. We have to find how many times 15 goes into 14? No. How many times 15 goes into 144? Yes. Well, look, I know that 15 times 10 is 150, just a bit over. So my guess is that we're going to land on 9 going in this spot. Let's test that out with a side calculation. 15 times 9. 9 times 5 is 45. 5 comes down, 4 gets carried. 9 times 1 is 9 plus the 4 is 13. And that That looks right. We'll do 144 minus 135. The 4 needs to borrow. 14 minus 5 is 9. Everything else cancels out. Let's bring down the 0. The new number that's formed is 90. How many times does 15 go into 90? Well, you can maybe sort this out using mental math. 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90. It ends up going in 6 times. 15 times 6 is 90 exactly. And you get 96 tickets as your answer.